Hi, everybody. It's Lisa Helton, aka Dr. Lisa, with Craig White. We are going to have a great conversation right now. One of the things you want to stay tuned in, some of the things we're going to talk about, is Craig believes that we have now identified and can identify the Antichrist on the earth right now. Now, Craig, he is from hightimetoawake.com. He is a lay minister just like the rest of us. He told me he was just a normal guy, and we have been studying and following some of the things he's been writing in his books for years, and he bases High Time to Awake on his scripture, Romans 11:13. Tell us a little bit about what you do and some of the books you've authored, Craig, before we get started with our discussion.
Well, I've written 17 books so far, and it's mostly about Bible prophecy. There is just some general Bible teaching as well. But yeah, I'm a Bible prophecy teacher. I've had my website, hightimetoawake.com, for 9 years, and almost 10 now. And yeah, I'm a Bible prophecy teacher. Should I jump right into it?
Yes, let's do it. So you believe that we can identify the Antichrist right now. Now tell me who you think the Antichrist is and how and why you believe this.
The Antichrist is Turkish President Erdogan. And I actually identified Erdogan about 10 years ago. So it's not that we can just now identify him, but he's been officially revealed. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it talks about Paul is addressing the early church, and he's saying that two events must happen before the tribulation can begin. And those two events are the casting out of Satan from heaven, and then after he's cast out, the enabling of the Antichrist. And specifically in 2 Thessalonians, he will sit in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. All right? And a lot of people will say, well, that temple of God, that I've always thought that refers to the temple in Jerusalem. And, I've been open to that interpretation as well. But if you look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that event precedes the tribulation. And the abomination of desecration or desolation is what most people would think maybe that's the same event. But that happens in the middle of the tribulation. That happens the day that the Antichrist's armies will invade Jerusalem. So for Paul to say the tribulation can't start until Jerusalem is invaded, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because these church members were wondering, are we in the tribulation? So I don't think we're in the tribulation yet, but I think it's because the Antichrist has been officially revealed by sitting in the temple of God, which is, I think, Turkish President Erdogan sitting in the Hagia Sophia Cathedral in Istanbul, Turkey. Because that has happened, I think that the tribulation is free now to begin. There's really nothing holding it back as far as biblical events go.
So what you're speaking about specifically is on July 24th, last week, because today we're talking about this, the second day of August. And so last week, this president, pronounce his name again, the Turkish president?
Erdogan.
Erdogan, okay, because it's spelled Eroagon, Eroagon or something like that. And when I researched this, he recently took the Hagia Sophia, which was the largest Christian cathedral in the world, and it had been converted to a museum. And then he ended up taking it and creating it and making it into a mosque just recently, right?
That's right. Just a couple weeks ago.
Just a couple weeks ago. And then not only did he make it into a mosque, but then he ended up leading the prayer. And he's not even in the religion of Islam. They believe that the Amma, which is the top worshiper, the lead worshiper, this special one is the only one that can lead the prayer. And somehow this Turkish president led the prayer without even being, so he is not only, he's making himself the supreme Amma by doing that, right?
Oh, I don't know if he's making himself the supreme imam, but he's definitely showing himself as a holy man. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And well, just the fact that he facilitated the entire conversion of the Hagia Sophia. He's been talking about doing that for many years, and then he did it. And then at the opening dedication of the mosque, he led the Muslim prayer. He recited from the Quran. And you can go on YouTube and find videos of him doing that. I found one with the English subtitles. And he is reciting directly from the Quran, but it's pretty creepy what he's saying. Basically, that Allah is above the God of Israel and above all things. And the Hagia Sophia, when it was first built, it's 1,500 years old. It's the oldest, largest, most significant Christian cathedral in the world. It was built as the patriarchal cathedral of the Greek, the Eastern Orthodox Greek religion. So I already forgot what I was saying.
Well, it's just literally beautiful. And so you said that he's been talking about this for years, and he's also been talking about his hatred for Israel. And have you seen where he has the map and he shows over time that Israel has occupied more and more land that's supposed to belong to the Palestinians? Have you seen his talk about that, and how he literally believes that he wants to be instrumental in preventing them from happening? So he totally hates Israel.
Oh yeah. About a day after the dedication of the Hagia Sophia, he said that next on his agenda will be to take control of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount. And already, just about maybe a month and a half ago, Turkey opened, they call it a visitor center on the Temple Mount. And there's a video of Turkish President Erdogan saying how the Jews have no claim to Jerusalem. So he already has his presence on the Temple Mount. But I think I was going to say that just the fact that Erdogan converted the cathedral into a mosque and then sat in it, and he actually sat on the floor and said that Allah is greater than the God of Israel. And just doing that, he was showing his supremacy over the God of Israel. So he was showing himself that he was God. And in 2 Thessalonians, it is the description of the temple of God is what the term is in 2 Thessalonians.
Mm-hmm.
It's not similar to the abomination of desolation. There's the Jews aren't instructed to flee Jerusalem into the wilderness. There's no stopping of the sacrifice. In 2 Thessalonians, the Antichrist will sit in the temple of God. In Matthew 24 and other places, the abomination will stand.
Mm-hmm.
Will stand in the holy place. So there are differences. There aren't enough similarities to really say that they're the same events. So I think we just witnessed.
So hold on just a minute there. Let's unpack that for our viewers. So basically in 2 Thessalonians, there's a scripture, key scriptures about the end time, and it reflects the fact that, say again it talks about God's temple, right? That he's going to sit in God's temple. And so you're saying that God's temple that it refers to is the Hagia Sophia.
I think it is. Yeah, the term at least in the King James, it says sitting in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
And then when you talk about the other scripture, the prophetic scriptures about what to be aware of, what to look for. We have Matthew 24. We
Yep.
have Daniel, I believe it's Daniel 7, but in Daniel,
27:9 probably.
okay,
27:9.
well, in Daniel, in a couple different places, there's some specifics, but in one particular place, it does talk about the abomination, desolation, and then we see it again in Revelation,
Right.
where it talks about that. So you're saying that Daniel, Matthew 24, and Revelation are talking about the Temple Mount, and that's talking about a different time during the tribulation period, is what you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the abomination of desolation will happen in the middle of the tribulation. And Daniel 27:9, it talks about the Antichrist making a covenant with, it just says the many, but it's concerning Israel because in the middle of that covenant, he breaks it and he stops the sacrifices in the temple in Jerusalem that's yet to be built. But yeah, so when the temple sacrifices stop, there's some kind of abomination set up in the temple, and that leads it to become desolate, and in even Jerusalem desolate. And that's when the Jews are instructed to flee into the wilderness. That's according to Matthew chapter 24, I think it's verse 12. That's Jerusalem's great tribulation, and I think that's 3.5 years. So that's a different event, and I believe that's going to happen. It's not that I don't believe that's going to happen, but I think that 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 is talking about a separate event, and I think we just witnessed it.
Turkey has partnered with terrorist armies, right? And he has formed a coalition with some of these armies in order to, and they're doing drills. They were doing drills. Did you see that? They're already camped out and occupying parts of Syria, which borders Israel, northern Israel.
Yeah, they're more than camping out. I mean, Turkey has conquered a lot of northern Syria. They've been there for quite a while now, and I mean years, and they're especially encamped in the Idlib province of northwestern Syria, which is a very significant thing. In Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 23 through 27, it talks about the destruction of Damascus.
Okay.
And it starts off by saying that 2 cities in northwestern Syria will hear evil reports and be terrified. And those 2 cities are Hama and in Jeremiah it says Arpad. Arpad today is called Tel Rafat. It means Rose Hill, if you care.
Okay.
And anyway, so Hama and Tel Rafat will hear evil reports, and then Jeremiah says that the residents of Damascus will flee, and then Damascus will be destroyed. The Turkish army has, I don't even know how many now, hundreds of thousands probably, of troops in and around Hama and Tel Rafat. The province of Idlib is where the Turkish army is, along with Al-Qaeda from a lot of different places.
Okay, so Al-Qaeda,
and that's right between Hama and Tel Rafat. The Syrian army is in Hama, the Kurds are in Tel Rafat, and Erdogan has vowed to get rid of the Kurds in Tel Rafat. He said that if there's anything that the Turkish army accomplishes in Syria, it's going to be to conquer Tel Rafat. So the Turkish army has been right next to these places for a good 2 years. In the last couple of months, they've just about tripled their presence there. So there's a lot of troops in Idlib, and there's a lot more troops all along the Syrian and Turkish border. So we should expect Turkey to attack northwestern Syria even more than they already have. They've already had 2 major offensives, but we should expect to see them with an even bigger one going all the way to Damascus, to the capital.
Well, the interesting thing about that, yes, and I think you are right about that. The interesting thing about that is that the day of this holiday Now we need to research the name of the holiday. I don't know a lot about the Islamic holidays.
The Islamic, they just had, I think it's called Eid or something like that, EID, something like that.
Yes, it was
It's
the
a big
same
one.
that day. They were, and you know, they're considered holy, right? Holy days.
Oh, okay.
And so they
They're
would
not
not be
supposed to be.
operating drills.
Oh, okay. I
But
got you.
this Al-Qaeda group, it has a different name because it's formed with other terrorist organizations, right? They have partnered with the Turkish army, and they are
Yep.
running drills, and they were doing these things the day of this holiday, which means that they are planning and preparing something right now. Now,
absolutely.
help our viewers, and also from our Bible class that we're going to be having, help us understand the geography of Israel. I've had the opportunity to go and see all the borders, and it's not a very big country at all. And
No.
but it borders. Tell everybody how and why we need to be concerned about this as Americans that are totally in support of Israel.
Well, like I said, and Jeremiah says that Damascus will be destroyed, right? Damascus is 30 miles away from northern Israel, right? It's very close. And in Ezekiel chapter 38, it actually identifies Turkey. The leader of Turkey is leading an invasion into Israel. And he's going to lead Libya, Sudan, and Iran into Israel, according to Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5. And those are the forces that are fighting in Syria now. The Iranian army is there. Hezbollah from Iran is in Syria. There's a Free Syrian Army, which is not Syrian at all. This Free Syrian Army is mostly Al-Qaeda Sunni Muslims from Libya. And Sudan is right next to Libya in northern Africa, and Sudan is 100% or nearly Sunni Muslim. 7 years ago, when the Syrian army, or 9 years ago now, when the Syrian war began, Turkey was calling all these Sunni Muslims to go to war with Syria. The Syrian war is not a civil war; it's an outside invasion, and all these Sunni Muslims from Libya and Sudan and other places just flooded into Syria from Turkey, from the Turkish border. I remember seeing videos of just hundreds and thousands of these kind of ragtag jihadists coming with their weapons on their shoulders, just flooding into the Syrian border through Turkey, and Turkey let them. So anyway, Turkey has enlisted the Sunni Muslim world to fight with them, and the Free Syrian Army is fighting right alongside of Turkey. That they're subordinate to Turkey, and then there are many Sunni Muslim Al-Qaeda groups in Idlib. During the Syrian war, Syrian President Assad conquered one area at a time, and he always allowed them to return to Idlib province. So all the people who were fighting all over Syria are now in Idlib. All the Sunni, all the rebels, they're all in Idlib. So they're there, and they've been fighting on a daily basis with the Syrian army back and forth, and not really making much progress. But pretty soon the Turkish army is going to join them and really fight against the Syrian army, and in Tel Rafat they're going to remove the Kurds. So the Turkish army is going to change the balance in Syria, and they're going to go all the way to Damascus and destroy Damascus.
And so Damascus is 30 miles at the very northern tip of Israel. Now tell me how this relates, because you and I believe the same, which is that we are going to be raptured prior to any time in the tribulation happening. Yep. So tell me what you believe, how the order of events are going to happen. So we know that they're preparing for this. They're about to attack Damascus. So what do you think the order of events are going to be?
I want to say, first of all, I've been waiting for this for probably 7 years or more, right? I've told people 9 years ago that Turkey is going to attack Hagia and Tel Rafat, and nobody believed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got a lot of grief from Muslims and Turks and Kurds and all that kind of stuff. So that couldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the Turkish army has been amassed right next to Hagia and Tel Rafat, especially, well, for the last couple of years, and even more so for the last couple of months. And I'll give you a real easy illustration to know when the rapture is going to happen. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The Turkish army is in northwestern Syria. It's a straight shot south to Damascus. It's a straight shot south from Damascus to the Golan Heights of northern Israel. When the Turkish army reaches the Golan Heights, Jesus Christ is going to return in the air in a whirlwind of fire to scorch the land and stop the invasion and cause them to retreat. That's in Nahum chapter 1. And it's actually also mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 38 as well. Mm-hmm. So when the Turkish army, after it destroys Damascus, along with Al-Qaeda, they're going to pick up the Iranian army and probably Iran from Hezbollah. And then, what did I say? Hezbollah from Iran. And then they're going to invade Israel in the Golan Heights. That's the very northern part of Israel.
Well, we know that when Christ comes there and he's going to be breaking up the people who are trying to attack, when all of the army starts surrounding in Israel and start to take over the territory in Israel. This is when we know that Christ is going to come to the Gog and Magog, right? The valley of that area. And this is when we know that to be the rapture of the church.
Well, I don't know if we know it, but that's what I believe.
I mean, you and I, we know based on what we believe the scripture reveals.
Yeah, most people don't have any insight into that. But yeah, in Ezekiel chapter 38, there'll probably be some people who have objections. I think Ezekiel chapter 38 is a Turkish-led invasion that happens just before the tribulation, and I think that gets repelled by God. I think by Jesus Christ coming in the air, and when Jesus comes, he'll also rapture the church. But then Ezekiel chapter 39, some people think it's all the same battle, but I don't think it is. Ezekiel chapter 39 is the same as the Battle of Armageddon that happens at the end of the tribulation, and Jesus Christ also stops that too. He wipes them out. He squishes them like grapes, right? Mm-hmm. Treads the winepress of his indignation. But yeah, I think they're two separate invasions, Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39, both led by Turkey, both led by the Antichrist. And in Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, this is where it started for me saying, oh my goodness, Turkish President Erdogan is the Antichrist. And this is, almost 10 years ago or something like that. I actually wrote my first book before I ever had my website. And this information is in my first book, that in Ezekiel chapter 38, it says Magog, prophesy against Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Magog, Meshech, Tubal, Togarmah, Gomer, they were all sons of Japheth, who was a son of Noah, right? So Japheth settled in what we call Turkey today, and his sons were the first princes that were set over provinces in Turkey, all right? So a lot of people say Magog, Meshech, Tubal. That sounds like those places might be in Russia. That's what they say, but they're not. They're the first provinces of Turkey. And it kind of gives it away because it's the chief prince. He's the primary prince, or the most significant prince amongst the princes of Turkey. He's the leader of the provinces of Turkey. You could say he was you could say that he was the primary governor of Turkey, or you could say he was the prime minister of Turkey, which Turkish President Erdogan was for a long time. And in a way, he kind of still is. believe it or not. Even though he's president, he became president and eliminated the position of prime minister. So he's doing all the prime minister duties. And a prime minister compared to a president, the president would be the bighorn or the king or the leader.
Mm-hmm.
The prime minister would be the little horn. It would be secondary. Okay.
Right.
So Turkish President Erdogan is the consummate little horn. You know, throughout history, for I don't remember how many years he was prime minister. I think 12 or 13 maybe. And that's how he'll be seen in history. He was the prime minister who usurped the throne, and he's still doing the prime minister duties, but he got rid of officially the position of prime minister, even though he's called president now. So he is the little horn, and that little horn shows up in other places in Bible prophecy. That little horn finally takes control of the next world empire, which will be a revived Ottoman Empire.
Did you see where he was talking about recently, where he made the statement about their head had been bruised and now it's healed? Tell us about that and how that fits in with biblical prophecy.
Yeah, actually, the latest thing I heard was the top imam in Turkey gave the sermon at the Hagia Sophia when they dedicated it as a mosque, and he walked up to the pulpit carrying an Ottoman sword, Ottoman Empire sword, and he said that the Turkey's wound, or the Ottoman wound, has been healed or is healing, and that the Ottoman Empire will be restored to its original territory and glory, that kind of a thing. So they actually dedicated that mosque to the return of the Ottoman Empire. And Turkish President Erdogan, if you watch the news at all, your viewers, if they have, he's been trying to, reestablish the Ottoman Empire for probably 15 or 20 years. That's something that he is very keen on. And actually, after the dedication of the Hagia Sophia as a mosque, which has only been a couple weeks, the talk now is that the Turkish citizens want to see the caliphate return, the Ottoman Empire return. The news media is talking about it. Turkish President Erdogan is talking about it. Now it's like, well, since we regained the Hagia Sophia, because during the Ottoman Empire, the Hagia Sophia was a mosque. And then, and I think it was 1934, it became a museum under Ataturk, if you know who Ataturk was. He's the father of modern Turkey, of the more secular Turkey. But that's all been erased by Erdogan now. It's very Islamic, and Turkish President Erdogan is more interested in the Ottoman resurgence than he is in Islam, right? He didn't dedicate the mosque to Islam. He dedicated it to the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire in Revelation says that the final world empire, or the Revelation calls it a beast, its head will be wounded, but then it will be healed. And the last world empire that we've had is the Ottoman Empire. And in the end times, which is now, the Ottoman Empire is going to be healed. It's going to be reestablished, and it's happening. Turkey is in Syria. Turkey is in northern Iraq. Turkey is in Libya. Turkey has promised, or Erdogan has promised, to go into Egypt and to reestablish the Muslim Brotherhood leadership there. He's threatened Cyprus. He's threatened Greece. He's doing it already, and he's going to succeed, and he's going to continue doing it. And that's, the complete reestablishment of the Ottoman Empire is something that Christians will not see, because they'll be raptured before that. It's already happening. It will be finalized probably, in the middle of the tribulation at some point. But that's not something to wait around for. But it's already happening.
So the comment about being wounded on the head and healed,
right?
We are identifying as revealed prophecy from Revelation. Is it 13 where it says that? We'll unpack that in our Bible class. But in Revelation, there is a scripture that specifically mentions that the Antichrist will say that, and that will
Well, I don't know if it. No, I don't.
that will happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. I don't think Antichrist will say it, but
Not say
the
it.
imam almost quoted scripture, right? It was his opening remarks. He was talking about the Ottoman wound has been healed or is healing, something to that effect. Yeah, he almost quoted it verbatim. So yeah, absolutely, it's happening. That is prophecy, revealed. But the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is a mark that identifies the wearer with the next world empire. And the next world empire is not going to be global. It's going to be a revived Ottoman Empire. Every world empire in the past, there's been 7 so far, they've all been located around the Mediterranean Sea, basically. Okay? And that's what the next one's going to be. It's going to be Europe, or Eastern Europe at least. It's going to be the Middle East, and it's probably going to be parts of Russia, or Russia in general. But it's not the U.S., China, everywhere else. I really don't think it is. Should I talk about the mark of the beast a little bit?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The mark of the beast is 666, right? Everybody's heard that.
Mm-hmm.
In the New Testament, it's written in that part. I think it is written in Greek, right? 660 and 6. If you write that out in Greek, it's the same characters in Arabic that spell in the name of Allah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And for the last since Muhammad, pretty much, all the Muslim factions of every kind wear the Muslim headband and armband that always says in the name of Allah on it. So I think that's the mark of the beast. In Islam, it's called a Bismillah. That just means in the name of Allah. And I think that's the mark of the beast. And when it says you can't buy or sell, I'm going to say that especially in Israel, and especially in Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
the Jews during the Great Tribulation will not be able to buy and sell. I don't think it's a worldwide economic collapse. I don't think it's a worldwide mark. I think it's especially for the Jews, and at the very least for the kingdom of the Ottoman Empire. That you'll have to be identified with the Ottoman Empire to be able to buy and sell. I think that's what the mark of the beast is. So people get a little loony going off with microchips and vaccines and stuff, but I still think it's concerning, that they want to vaccinate everybody. It's horrible, but I don't think that's necessarily the mark of the beast specifically.
How to be encouraged, because we believe and we know that we belong to God, and He knows who His children are. So all of the world events that are happening, that we don't need to fear, we need to be encouraged, and that Christ is coming back for His bride, His church. And tell us a little bit of let's end our talk today with some encouragement for the body.
All right. Well, you just practically quoted from Nahum chapter 1.
Did I?
Yes. Nahum chapter 1 talks about Jesus Christ coming in a whirlwind of fire to the Golan Heights. All right, I have a great article about it on my website, or you could just go to the Bible and read it for yourself. But it's a very interesting chapter, because the rest of Nahum has nothing to do with that. Anyway, in the midst of Jesus Christ coming in a whirlwind of fire and scorching the land with heat and fire, it says that he knows who belong to him. All right, and that's actually in Psalm 50. It's very similar kind of a thing. And in Psalm 50, it talks about the whirlwind of fire and heat and all that, and it says that Jesus Christ will command His angels to gather believers. So that is the rapture. And when the Turkish army and all the people that they're leading enter the Golan Heights, Jesus Christ is going to come to stop them. He's going to come to get his church. So it's a very short trip from northwestern Syria, where the Turkish army is right now, down to the Golan Heights. It's about 300 miles. And they're going to stop in Damascus before they get to the Golan Heights. So the rapture is pretty soon.
I would like for you all to check out Craig White and stay tuned, because he's very informed. HighTimeToAwake.com. I'll put the link on the site so that you can see. And Craig, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed getting to know you, and the way that and the revelation that you've had. And people may not agree with everything that you say, but it's good, because there is a scripture that I've always done with my Bible scholar classes, and it is a glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings, and that's really what we want to be doing, searching out scripture for ourselves, and that comes from Proverbs 25:2. And that's what you've done, and that's what I'm doing, and I appreciate this really healthy discussion on things.
Can I give a closing remark?
Yes, please.
And the next thing to look for is in northwestern Syria, the next major Bible prophecy event. And that's the Turkish army finally attacking Hama and Tel Rafat. Kurds are in Tel Rafat, Syrian army is in Hama. That's the next thing. And I think it's gonna, things are gonna get rolling. We're not gonna be waiting 7 years for this. It's gonna happen. So it's gonna happen whether you agree with me or not. And just watch for those things.
Right. Well, thank you. Make sure that anything that you believe lines up with scripture. And that's why, and a lot of what Craig White has said is just phenomenal and does line up with scripture. So we're going to unpack that. Bible Class with Dr. Lisa. Stay tuned. Look at the title, Bible Class, Revealing of the Antichrist. And we'll follow up. Talk to you all later. Love you.